On the chilling afternoon of August 1st, 1999, in Jamshedpur, India, a frantic doctor named Anupam Roy burst into the Gorband police station, his face a mask of fear as he reported his sister, Lucky Balik, and her family missing. The police hurried with him to her home, only to find the front door locked tight. Neighbors revealed a startling truth. They hadn't seen the family for months. As the officers forced their way inside, a foul odor hit them like a wall. In a shadowy corner of the living room, they stumbled upon clothes stained with dried blood, causing Anupam's heart to race with dread. Further searching revealed disconnected phone lines and no signs of forced entry, raising unsettling questions about what had happened. In the backyard, they spotted the septic tank sealed with cement and surrounded by empty acid bottles. With a mix of anxiety and determination, the officers broke it open, revealing several sacks filled with dismembered body parts floating in the murky water. The horror of the scene was overwhelming, and there was a strange sense of disbelief in the air. The police quickly sealed off the area, knowing this shocking find would send ripples of fear through the entire community, forever marking that quiet August day with a dark and unimaginable reality. It all began at Keenan Cricket Stadium, where Chaitali Bhowmik became fascinated by 21-year-old cricketer Syed Rizwan. Their first meeting, when Chaitali asked for his autograph, quickly turned into a strong connection and love. Chaitali, feeling confident, proposed marriage, but Rizwan hesitated, worried about their different backgrounds. She was Hindu and he was Muslim. Chaitali then turned to her mother, Lucky Bhowmik, who was shocked and angry. Together with her father, Shubhendu Bhowmik, they strongly opposed the relationship, citing Chaitali's age and the issues a Hindu-Muslim marriage could cause. They feared it would shame the family and felt she was too young to make such a commitment. Despite Chaitali defending their love, her parents' disapproval grew, leading to more anger and resentment. This conflict, born from love and cultural differences, began to tear the family apart. The Bhowmik family resided in the Telco colony of Jamshedpur, a residential area established for industrial workers. It was home to families who had moved far from their native places for work. Among these families was the Bhowmik household. The family had 5 members. Shubhendu Bhowmik, the head of the household, worked diligently at the Telco company, providing for his loved ones. His wife, Lucky Bhowmik, managed the daily affairs of the home with care and devotion. Their 2 children, 14-year-old Kalan and college-going Chaitali, were bright students full of promise and focused on their education. Adding to the familial bond, Lucky's mother, Anita, lived with them, sharing in their joys and routines. On January 29, 1999, life seemed to begin as usual for the Balik family. Shubhendu had breakfast and left for his job at the Telco company. His 14-year-old son, Kalan, left for school, leaving only 3 people at home: Chaitali, her mother Lucky, and her grandmother Anita. The Bhowmik family was known for their friendly demeanor. Lucky and Anita often spent time chatting with neighbors. However, on this particular day, the house was unusually quiet. Neighbors thought little of it at first, assuming the family might be busy. However, as days turned into weeks, their absence started to feel strange. Not a single member of the family was seen stepping out of the house. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, Chaitali was spotted when a concerned neighbor asked about the whereabouts of Lucky and Anita. She casually mentioned that all had gone to attend a wedding at a relative's house. The explanation seemed plausible, and the neighbor didn't question it further. Chaitali quickly returned inside and was not seen again for several days. Chaitali's uncle, Dr. Anupam Roy, also became concerned. He hadn't heard from his sister Lucky or their mother Anita in months. In June 1999, despite his busy schedule as a doctor, Anupam decided to visit the Bhowmik house in Telco colony. He found the house locked and asked neighbors about the family. They told him no one had seen the Bhowmiks since January. Worried and scared, Anupam went to the police station and filed a missing persons report. The police began investigating the disappearance of the Balik family, with neighbors recalling seeing Chaitali active until the following month. But before they could gather more clues, something unexpected happened. Chaitali and Rizwan walked into the police station and confessed. What shocked the officers the most was Chaitali's revelation about the events that led to such a dark decision. Chaitali explained how her father, Shubhendu, had reacted with violent rage when he found out about her relationship with Rizwan. The man who had always been kind to her now threatened to kill her. This enraged reaction left Chaitali in shock, but what terrified her even more was the fear of her family finding out she was pregnant by Rizwan. In her mind, her family would surely kill her, and the constant rejection and anger from them pushed her into a panic. Alone and feeling hopeless, Chaitali made an unimaginable choice: to eliminate the people she feared would destroy her life. She convinced Rizwan that the only way out was to take everything from her family, money, jewels, and valuables, by murdering them. On January 29, 1999, the plan went into action. Shubhendu left for work and Kalan went to school, leaving only Lucky, Anita, and Chaitali at home. After completing her chores, Lucky went to her room to rest. That's when Chaitali began to quietly prepare. She first disconnected the phone line to prevent anyone from calling for help. Then, she opened the front door, spotted Rizwan approaching, and signaled him to come in. Rizwan slipped inside the house without anyone noticing. Chaitali carefully closed the door and locked it behind Rizwan. She told him that her mother and grandmother were sleeping in a different room. Rizwan, following the plan, suggested they first take care of her grandmother. The two quietly made their way upstairs to her grandmother's room. As her grandmother lay peacefully asleep, Chaitali held her hand and leg while Rizwan moved in, wrapping his hands around her neck and beginning to strangle her. Within moments, the old woman suffocated and died. Afterward, they went back downstairs to the bedroom where her mother, Lucky, lay resting. They followed the same method, strangling Lucky until she too took her last breath. Now the two waited for Kalan, Chaitali's younger brother, to return home from school. Kalan rang the doorbell as he came home that afternoon. Chaitali opened the door and greeted him, but as he walked in, he didn't notice Rizwan, who was hiding behind the door. At the perfect moment, Rizwan sprang from his hiding place and, without warning, started strangling Kalan from behind. Kalan, caught off guard and struggling to breathe, but Chaitali quickly moved to restrain him, holding his hands to prevent him from moving. Once her brother Kalan was lifeless, Chaitali hid his body in the kitchen, and the two of them waited for her father Shubhendu to return home. When he arrived after work, seeing Chaitali open the door, he didn't suspect a thing and simply walked in. But as soon as he stepped inside, Rizwan, who had been waiting behind the main door, emerged quickly with an iron rod in hand. He struck Shubhendu hard on the head, the blow sending him to the ground, bleeding heavily, and he fainted instantly. Without hesitation, Rizwan began to strangle him. Though Shubhendu regained some consciousness and struggled, it was only a matter of minutes before he too was lifeless. With 4 bodies to conceal, Rizwan and Chaitali needed a plan. After a brief conversation, they decided the best way to dispose of the remains was to chop up the bodies and hide them in the septic tank. They began their gruesome task, hoping nobody would discover the horrifying truth. Once Chaitali agreed to the plan, Rizwan left the house and returned with a meat-cutting knife. Together, they started dismembering the bodies, chopping them into pieces and packing them into sacks. After finishing, they carefully placed the sacks into the septic tank behind the house. To mask the terrible smell, they poured fennel, bleaching powder, and acid into the tank, hoping to cover the stench of death. They then went inside and cleaned the bloodstains on the floor with more fennel, ensuring they left no trace of their horrific crime. The bloodied clothes were gathered and hidden in a corner of the hall, out of sight. Once everything was completed, Rizwan left Chaitali alone in the house. They made sure that no one saw them entering or leaving, carefully covering their tracks to avoid raising suspicion. The most chilling aspect of this story is that after killing her entire family, Chaitali felt no remorse. In fact, she lived peacefully in the house for the next month, seemingly happy as if nothing had happened. Throughout February, Rizwan visited her regularly, and together they spent their time in the house without fear. They even took money from the family's belongings before ultimately fleeing the scene. This was not an ordinary murder. It was a calculated and ruthless crime, one of the most extreme and brutal cases ever recorded. Both Chaitali and Rizwan received death sentences for their actions. However, they appealed their convictions in the Jamshedpur High Court, and the court granted their appeal. As a result, in July 2004, their death sentences were reduced to life imprisonment. During the course of the trial, Chaitali gave birth to a son while incarcerated. 2 years later, the child was placed in the care of Rizwan's mother as Chaitali was considered unfit to raise him. The story of Chaitali and Rizwan is a chilling exploration of human depravity and the psychological factors that can drive individuals to commit brutal acts. Their calculated murders raise questions about the influences that may have led them to such extremes, highlighting the importance of mental health support and intervention. Thanks for watching, and make sure to subscribe.